Hey guys, today we're going to be reacting to The Government Took on Visa and Mastercard. Games Weren't Worth It by Bellular News. Also, I want to mention, sorry for not uploading yesterday, well, this is going to go up tomorrow, so when y'all see it, it'll be yesterday. I didn't upload yesterday because I recorded 2 videos and even scheduled them for upload and made a thumbnail and all that. Just to go back and realize my mic was muted the entire time. So that was an hour down the drain. Both videos are like about 30 minutes long. Yeah, and that went bye-bye. Alright, well, again, like, if you want to watch the original video, there'll be a link down in the description below. But let's go ahead and get this started.
Corner, Visa, and Mastercard, the companies that spent last year enforcing their rules on Steam and itch.io, basically deciding what gets to count as legitimate art, and a year where even if they wanted to, Steam couldn't really do that much. So, for a year, these payment processors have been untouchable, even after the public pushback. But in the other corner, we have a new challenger, and that challenger is the US government, the heaviest heavyweight that some are now hoping can pressure these companies.
I kind of want to.
Before this big bout gets underway, well, as it turns out,
it really sucks that the government is the one that would have to step in to actually make them fuck off. Like, there should already be some common sense. As long as it's illegal, they're just there to process the payment. They're not meant to police what you buy and judge what you buy and decide what you can and cannot use your money for, that you worked for and earned. Your fucking money, your decision. And I hate that they have a say oh, we won't process this payment because we, the payment processor, believe it's unethical or what's it called, a brand risk. And I hate that fucking term. A brand risk, my ass.
Turns out there's probably a real fix, but it's probably not going to come from either corner of this argument. That's what makes it an interesting story. Let me get you up to speed. So last year, Valve and itch.io, who are the biggest commercial and artistic game distribution sites, basically gave up control of their platforms. And honestly, they kind of had to. The companies controlling the purse strings told them to, right? That's Mastercard, Visa, and the other payment processors downstream.
I want to mention, because he probably won't mention it, but they've actually they did this in Japan too, in other places. And in Japan, it actually run a manga, a website that would host manga and all that. All kinds of archived manga and all that. It forced them to go out of business because they couldn't process payments because Visa and MasterCard, PayPal, and shit like that took away payment processing. And they literally had to shut down the site because they could not pay the bills anymore because they could not receive money. Because they did not want to remove content that Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, all this shit found to be problematic. And how that went is the Japan government, last I checked, is sent them a fine and all that. They're probably not going to pay it. And has actually started their own payment processor. The Japanese government has started their own payment processor to counter Visa and MasterCard's monopoly.
The people who move the money around the place.
You
cannot run a store without people to move money around the place. And they mostly went after adult games. The payment processors asked for those games to be removed from sale. Valve's explanation? Well, pressure from MasterCard affiliates over illegal or brand-damaging transactions. And here's the thing. These games were not illegal in countries like America.
Nothing was illegal about them in America and shit like that. But they had to be removed everywhere. They couldn't stay hosted in America because they were illegal somewhere else. It's an excuse that they'd probably use, but it's not an actual excuse and should not be able to be forced upon them. Steam to actually remove it for America, and anywhere else it's legal. And if it's legal in that country, it should be able to stay listed in that country. If it's illegal in another country, it should be able to be seen in that country. Ooh, fuck. Sorry, I'm just drinking a beer. Been a while.
America. So this is not about a payment processor saying, that's an illegal thing, we will not facilitate it.
Fuck.
That seems reasonable. This
Still
is different, and to many, including me, it is overreach. Sure, many don't want to play those games,
100%.
but many do, and they are legal to sell in these countries.
I'm going to say I do play some adult games. Keitatsu Party. Or at least I used to. I don't really honestly play them that much anymore because, well, they're far and few in between, and overall they're not that interesting. There's some that like have some fun gameplay that actually you just play because of the fun mini games, and some actually have some deeper mechanics that's pretty cool, I think. I won't say the name of a different one because that one's not censored, and I have no idea what YouTube will do to me if I actually mention its name. So, oh wait, I'll just mention its name anyway. Last Evil, that's a pretty good one. It's, kind of like a turn card-based game. It is very not safe for work, so if you are under the age of 18, I advise you do not purchase this game. You stay away from this game. Or, it's like an adult-only game, so I don't recommend it if you're under the age of 18. But if you're over the age of 18, and you like games like that, I'd recommend checking it out. It's pretty nice. It no longer receives. It stopped receiving updates back in 2018. Excuse me. I think I want to say 2018 or 2022. I can't remember. I ain't gonna check either.
Players push back against this phone and email campaigns, trying to change this policy and to stop a third party deciding what could be sold and what art could even be made. Because yes, to be sustainable, art does actually have to make money. That's the way this works.
Ooh, shit.
Money is an exchange of value, and we can't all be, say, Renaissance Italians who happen to find a nice little patron that we can fluff up in return for enough money to fund our art. It's not like that. And even though this story hasn't generated many fresh headlines, Steam's crackdown on adult content is actually...
Oh, so like a video ago or so, I said I wasn't a furry. I'm technically not a furry, but I do indulge in some content that those artists released. And if you judge me, if you were ever were attracted to Lola Bunny, you are no different.
Still going on. One developer we spoke to tried to release 2 games in the last year, and both were caught by the new standards. Fuck. The first was interpreted by Steam's moderator.
Okay, I recognize that one. I don't own that one. And I recognize none of these others. Yeah, I only recognize that one. That one, I have no idea. I can't remember if it looked interesting or not.
As having illegal content, which the devs...
I know that one. I actually have that one.
...completely deny.
I hated that one because it was very buggy.
But no chance of appeal.
And frame drops
like crazy. As for the second one, well, things seemed to be going well. But then Steam asked...
Like, it would play... Sorry, I don't mean to keep pausing. It would play nice, and then the frames would just, like, randomly start dipping like crazy. And then they'd play nice again, and then the frames would start... It would fluctuate, and I had it on low settings. My PC, while it's not the greatest PC in the world, it should have been able to run that shit at least halfway decent.
To showcase everything adult that would ever be added to the game. 6 weeks of silence later, Steam blocked it for depicting, quote, real people. That was in spite of them using industry-standard 3D animation. So that's years of work wasted, staff layoffs, contractors suspended, and a studio kept in limbo and locked out of the biggest game store that there is. And one that, of course, was only happy to flick on adult games and completely support them mere years ago. But now, some people think that help may be coming from a relatively unlikely place. The US government. First though, something that ties back to our previous coverage, because in this video we learned how game spending is falling, but subscriptions on games are actually rising. Too often we don't use those subs, and that's why Rocket Money is today's sponsor, because they make it easy for you to just get a handle on your subscriptions and save money. And you can get started for free today at rocketmoney.com/Ballular. Now, Rocket Money will securely and safely identify recurring charges for you. You can then just cancel them with just a few taps. They've put the work into...
I'll be honest with you, I never use any of these advertisements for like VPNs or Rocket Money or any like these deals. But this one, I would actually probably consider it because I have subscriptions that get on my nerves that I completely forget that I even have a subscription for. And, Yeah, it's not very nice, like getting paid and then getting randomly charged something that you don't even remember. It kind of sucks ass. Be real with you.
To make the UI and everything really smooth and easy. So if this is a chore you've been putting off, just, get Rocket Money and do it. Now's the time. Now, they'll also help you with bill negotiation, where you just upload your bill and they'll be able to help you out. I mean, a personal example for me, it's my go-to, is whenever my internet went to its off-contract price, I got on the phone. They initially denied me, but I was able to negotiate a speed upgrade and a halving of my monthly bill. So you can get that kind of thing too.
That's very nice.
And the thing is, I could have got that months earlier, but life got in the way. And that's the huge value of Rocket Money. They make all this stuff really easy. Now, they've cancelled over $880 million worth of subscriptions. They've helped their customers save up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. They've got other great tools beyond what I've mentioned, so if you want to spend less and save more, sounds pretty good to me. Join the over 10 million Rocket Money members today at rocketmoney.com/Bellular, or just click the link below. You can get started for free and unlock more features with premium. rocketmoney.com/Bellular.
I'm not really a cupcake, but I am super baked, thanks to Mood Cannabis.
This ad is still just fucking crazy to me. Advertising cannabis is fucking crazy.
As flagged by other industry site XBiz, the chairman of the FTC has actually written to the CEOs of Mastercard, Stripe, Visa, and PayPal. The subject, debanking. And that's actually the threat made to Valve and Itch, that their payment processing would be pulled, and you can't really run the world's largest game store if you're getting debanked all over the place. Here's what the press release said.
Kingstar, something like that, like a subscription service. That's something like Patreon. They got similar threats. They changed their rules for, I think, a week and then changed it back and added a whole bunch of new payment processing options and basically said, fuck Visa and MasterCard and all that shit. And, like, they went through a bunch of loopholes. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not fucking censoring. You can go kiss our ass. I'm like, I love that.
Full participation in commerce and public life necessarily requires that law-abiding individuals can access and freely participate in our financial system. Of course, for the game makers pushed off Steam and Itch, here's what actually matters here. The letter to Mastercard says that companies can't allow, quote, unlawful debanking by members that process transactions on its network, which basically is what happens with Valve. So to some, this basically looks like the US banking regulator riding to the rescue of devs who've been pushed off these game platforms.
The question is, will Visa and MasterCard back off, or will they continue their way? And ask another question. Will this person actually take action, like, and investigate them, find them, and even press charges? And even if they do, it will take years. We won't see results for a couple years. So what are we going to do in the meantime? Well, the people are going to suffer that actually made this stuff, that made the content. They're going to suffer because they still can't sell their game, because Visa and MasterCard, they still can pull their payment processing and all that until, like, it's settled. Unless they get some kind of, like, a court order to process payments until this is, like, settled. Which I doubt that will happen. But, it's just fucked up. Also, don't quote me on that. I am not a lawyer. I'm just going to assume that's something they can do.
But actually, this is something that's been building up for quite a while. And that takes me to August 2025, right in the middle of these game delistings, when the White House issued an executive order. It was called Guaranteeing Fair Banking for All Americans, and it directed the FTC to take action on the issue of debanking. And that's what we're seeing now. Basically, reminders to the heads of these organizations that they are under review and they cannot keep on getting away with what they've done. So by now you might be feeling positive about this story, that payment processors are somehow going to be forced to...
I don't feel positive about the story because honestly, payment processors are fucking weasels. They're bastards. They got lawyers and they got tons of money for those lawyers. So if anyone's going to find a loophole, it's more likely going to be the payment processors.
Well, process transactions for legal sales of goods. But here's the wrinkle in that. Here's the problem. What the FTC and the White House care about has absolutely nothing to do with video games. At least, not with this legislation. That's why the story is actually more interesting and why this video is not yet over. The executive order lists a very specific example of what it considers debanking, and that is Operation Choke Point from the Department of Justice. Originally, in 2013, it was about getting banks to think more cautiously about high-risk businesses. So that's pawn shops, gun dealers, payday loans, online gambling, adult content providers, that kind of thing, which should sound familiar to our story. Now, that's because all of them are at a higher risk of chargebacks or money laundering. Now, in 2017, politicians called a new round of checks on unregulated crypto a second wave. So you got all that risk appetite stuff, but the executive order also brings up banks tracking transactions in and around January 6th. I'll leave you to guess what year, but basically some of those involved were debanked, and the Mastercard letter from the FTC actually goes further. It cites the closure of the president's JP Morgan accounts. So, if you put your detective's hat on, can you see where this story's going, guys? Basically, gaming is just collateral in all of this. The real target is US political infrastructure and its financial interests, and how banking processes hamper them.
I mean, if we still get a win out of it, that's still a win.
That's what it's about. And it's because banks have this concept that is called risk appetite. They'll only take on so many high-risk accounts. That can mean cash-heavy businesses, politicians, their families, and really anyone who could bring in reputational damage. That's because those accounts cost way more to monitor, they carry more risk. So to manage all that, a bank will have its risk appetite, and anything beyond that threshold will basically get told to go and take their business elsewhere, whether it is legitimate or not. Basically, it's them refusing custom. And this is exactly what drove Mastercard and the others to act in the first place. Remember the phrase, brand damaging transactions? It is all about that. So, if you're wondering why a payment processor gets to decide what games you can buy, well, this is the actual machinery behind it. It is risk appetite. It's not really a content review. It's not a legal judgment as to whether that product should be sold, whether it's legal to be sold. No, it is a financial calculation about brand exposure and criminal liability. Now, some hope that if the full weight of the US government comes down on this, that adult game makers may just happen to benefit from it going on. That perhaps as a part of these sweeping reforms, they may finally just get left to run their businesses in peace. But the thing is, the target of all this is not that wide. Let me explain. Reuters confirmed last August that across 13 years of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau data, only 35 out of 8,361 people who complained about debanking cited political or religious reasons. That's the problem for the game side of things, because per those numbers, what the government is targeting here is basically those 35 things out of over 8,000. And that basically means the banks really don't have to do that much to fix.
They're basically going to lie. They're basically going to lie, dodge, and use other excuses to try to defend themselves and defend their actions. I mean, it's really no surprise.
The administration's particular complaints, and that likely doesn't mean great news for those who have been banned from Steam and from itch. And that is especially because they're already gearing up to be challenged under entirely different legal terms. When we look at the actions of Mastercard and the other payment processors, we see that what they're implementing is their own policies. They are not implementing laws.
This is why I hope that a whole bunch of they inspire more payment processors to rise up, new competition to actually rise up, and including Elon Musk even to make his own payment processing company, and actually just be process payments, and even offer Steam the process payments through Steam, and not block completely legal content because of brand risk, as they like to say. But it would be nice. Do I think it'll happen? Frankly honest, I have no idea. I want to say Elon Musk wouldn't fund or buy a payment processing company, but at the same time, I didn't think he'd buy Twitter. But he did. So, honestly, it's kind of hard to tell. He's kind of a loose cannon sometimes.
They are targeting legal content, but the people making it can't really fight back in the same way that the White House can. for obvious reasons. But what can change is the law, and Steam has already shown us exactly how it responds whenever legal authority gets involved. Now for that, we go back to March 2025. That's when we got the first rumblings of the payment processor problem, and it started with no mercy. It was an adult game in Steam. It was flagged by an activist group called Collective Shout for its content. Now that content eventually got in trouble with the UK government, where it was actually illegal to be sold under 2023 legislation. Now Valve eventually responded to this by geo-locking the game, but that was weeks after it was first flagged. Now what that did is it set the tone for the platforms caving to payment processor pressure.
They did it bad because they didn't do their research, and because of that, now everyone else looks bad, and like they feel like they need to give the payment processors power to compensate because they made bad publicity for themselves. But now the payment processors are honestly making it look even worse. Yeah, it's kind of all fucked.
Later on in the year, and it actually went further. In November of 2025,
give an inch, take a mile.
Industry Memo covered the case of Flick Solitaire, where Russia's media regulator went after the developer Flick Games because they breached a 2006 law by promoting non-traditional sexualities. Ooh! They're going to come out of the screen! They're going to get you and make you non-traditional. Very scary stuff. And the offending part of the game? Well, it was optional LGBTQ-themed art cards. Clearly a present and active threat that was going to destroy the fabric of Russia. Valve immediately geo-locked the game in response to this, and they blamed the developer for not actively restricting their game to comply with local laws.
That's kind of horseshit.
Whenever something like that happens, that's not Valve saying, oh yeah, we agree with Russia. It is Valve basically saying, well, you can't sell a game on our store in a region where that game would be in breach of the law in that region. I probably could have phrased that better, but I hope you get the point. Now, in both cases, they didn't even need a payment processor to get involved. Steam will comply with the law, just like they will for, say, age verification. And that might make the next point a bit alarming for some of you. The foreword of Project 2025, which is a legislative wish list published by the Heritage Foundation, it calls for adult content to be outlawed outright. That means producers imprisoned, distributors prosecuted, and technology firms that host this stuff being shut down. And Game Developers Analysis pointed out that the definition is broad enough to catch games that maybe, say, just have some of the gays in them. A queer character, as an example.
This is a complete severe overreach of government power. We are like, I'm gonna have to assume this is going on. They're trying to push this in the UK, probably. I would assume, but I wouldn't also doubt that they're trying to push in the US. I wasn't listening too much right there. Let me go back. Okay, he allows.
Forward of Project 2025, which is a legislative wish list published by the Heritage Foundation, it calls for adult content to be outlawed outright.
Where?
That means producers imprisoned, distributors prosecuted, and technology firms that host this stuff being shut down. And Game Developers Analysis pointed out that the definition is broad enough to catch games that maybe, say, just have some of the gays in them.
See, like, this is like way too. I hate laws that like are passed like this. It's not passed yet, but like any laws that is like passed like this that are way too broad, and like they're like basically like swinging around a sledgehammer. They're not specific, and they're made not specific on purpose, so they can have like a big ass brush and say, well, technically you fall under this category, so we can now sue you, we can arrest you, and you're just fucked well, not because you broke the law, really. It's because we decide you broke the law. Because we weren't specific with the law that we implemented. It's fucked. And it's something to use to silence people. And I wouldn't doubt that it could even get passed. In US or the UK. Especially the UK at this point. Like, UK is fucking... Oh god, the UK is fucking dog shit.
A queer character! As an example, The Sims. If two of your Sims bang, your Sims could be in breach of the law. quite something.
That's crazy.
Now, if that becomes law,
That is legit
platforms
crazy.
like Steam and itch would not have a choice. That's because they've already shown us that they will comply. Now, what I want you to do here is not think about this in partisan political terms. It's not about sides winning. In my view, this sort of thing is about what role government should take. Personally, I think that the likes of this would be a huge overreach, which I absolutely do not support. You know, it reminds me of, say, the days when David Cameron got very perturbed about face-sitting, and some UK law was changed. But beyond that, the through line across all of this, the payment processor policy, the government legislation, the platform compliance, it basically is that a handful of American financial companies hold veto power over what can be sold worldwide. No single policy change fixes that. And the reason why is it's the structure. It is literally how all of this shit runs, because we do our exchanges of value, not via bartering. I don't turn in some grain to Gabe and then have Gabe give me a video game. No, I have this thing called currency, and it's the companies that facilitate the maneuver of that currency that effectively dictate what can or cannot be done.
It's a monopoly.
But there may be some good news.
Please tell me good news.
There may be changes to that structure. I first came across this in one of my favorite channels, TechAlter. Now, he recently pointed out that countries are trying to reduce their reliance on American transaction services like Visa and Mastercard. This is by way of national digital wallets, phone-based apps, peer-to-peer payment platforms, basically all systems that would give storefronts options beyond the two companies that control the major pipelines.
That would honestly be a W and very beneficial to everybody, like everybody associated. Except the payment processors. Not so much to them.
So, if a platform doesn't need Mastercard to process payments, then Mastercard doesn't get to decide what that platform can sell. And that is the leverage that is currently missing. Because as much as Steam is big, as much as Valve are powerful, they're really powerless in the face of stuff that is this big. I mean, think about the sheer insane scale of the likes of Visa and Mastercard. And even more than that, just look at the scope of their profits. I imagine that with a nice profit margin,
Mastercard make fucking bank. Jesus Christ. Did have having a little bit of a dip here though. Let's see, 24 they had a spike, and then 25 they had a dip. Started to raise a little bit in quarter 2 of 25 as well. Oh no, I think it stayed at quarter 3.
Like that, one would certainly be able to afford just a little pinch of political lobbying. And that's one of the ways the capitalist system can actually break down. Whenever there is influence in government, whenever these companies essentially do act as utilities in how big they are and how they basically facilitate the world working, and then, well, get so much power and so much profit that they can start tipping the scales in their favor. I think it would be better for all corruption. Of us if there was more diversity in the payment space. And the news on that front is early, but it is good. None of the alternatives are fully ready yet, but they are happening. They are being built. And
I hope that we start getting some of that shit in America, because the way this shit runs and all this goes, it kind of all just sucks.
Every time a payment processor effectively pulls a game from a storefront, the case for building those alternatives only gets better. And I think the direction of travel is those alternatives. So, I think we can all agree that Mastercard shouldn't be the people dictating what is or is not a valid piece of art, but it's not the only example of global infrastructure getting in the way of, well, the video games. And that's why we need to talk about the RAM crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Some maybe positive headlines.
Fucking RAM, honestly, is pretty dog shit. RAM's going down recently, but man, when RAM prices went up, just seeing how high they went was absolutely insane to me. I'm like, it was and is becoming one of the most expensive parts of the PC now. From the cheapest to one of the most expensive parts. I'm like, that's crazy.
I don't think they're all that they're really made out to be. And to learn why, watch this.
What's this? What am I watching? Oh, it's over. Oh, you bastard. I fed it for it. Well, that was good, and I thank you guys, and thank you guys for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope I gave enough commentary. Sometimes I can go silent a little bit, and I don't intend to, but it's just like I kind of get captivated in the video, and I don't have much comments. But it was really good. I really like this video. I recommend you go check his channel out, and I recommend you go watch this video for yourself without me. And it'll be down in the link in the description below, and I'll catch y'all next time.